The Manhattan Convention Hall glittered like a cathedral of wealth. Champagne glasses caught the light, cameras flashed in waves, and Nicholas Vale moved through it all like a ghost in an expensive suit. His silver cufflinks, engraved with initials only he remembered, caught the stage lights as he adjusted them one final time. Evelyn Hart watched from the shadows, her black suit sharp against the warm glow of the room. 3 days on this job, and already she felt the weight of something wrong. Her instincts, honed in deserts half a world away, hummed with warning. The crowd applauded as Nicholas reached the podium. His voice filled the hall, calm and measured. What we unveil tonight is not just technology, it is trust. Then she saw it. A red dot dancing across his chest like a firefly of death. Time shattered. Evelyn's body moved before her mind could catch up. She tore through the crowd, reporters turning too late to understand. The laser trembled over his heart. She lunged. Nicholas barely registered the rush of movement before she slammed into him, her hand gripping his jaw, pushing him down behind the podium. "Get quiet," she whispered against his lips. Then her mouth was on his. Soft and urgent and terrifying, the gunshot cracked through the music. Glass exploded above them. Sparks rained down like dying stars. The crowd screamed. Cameras flashed. For one heartbeat, the world saw only a billionaire and his bodyguard locked together on the floor. Her body shielding his, Evelyn's hand pressed against his chest, feeling his heart pound beneath her palm. "Stay down," she hissed. Guards flooded the aisles. Someone shouted about a sniper. Nicholas tried to rise, but she pushed him back, her eyes scanning the balconies with practiced precision. The shooter was gone. Professional. Fast. They were pulled behind a reinforced wall, surrounded by security. Nicholas finally broke free, breathless, his eyes blazing between fury and disbelief. What the hell was that? Evelyn's voice stayed level, despite the adrenaline flooding her veins. "That was me keeping you alive, sir." The cameras had caught everything. The kiss. The bullet. The woman who saved him. Nicholas glanced at the shattered glass above, then back at her. His hand lifted halfway, as if to touch her face, then dropped. "You kissed me." Evelyn looked straight at him, her dark eyes unflinching. "Sir, I shielded you. If I told you to duck, you would have looked up, and you would be dead." He swallowed hard. The truth settling in his chest like lead. She stood first, brushing glass from her shoulders, her hair clinging to her skin from sweat and shock. "Next time, trust the woman telling you to be quiet." She walked away with the medics, leaving him kneeling behind the podium, still tasting the faint trace of her lips mixed with smoke and fear. He looked down at blood spatter on his sleeve from shattered glass and exhaled slowly. The woman he barely knew had just changed the course of his life, and somewhere in the chaos, he realized he wanted to know why she had moved so fast, why her kiss felt like both a promise and a goodbye, and why her eyes carried the same haunted weight he saw in his mirror every morning. The city was still asleep when Evelyn arrived at Vale Industries the next morning. Security guards nodded with new respect. Overnight, she had become the woman who saved Nicholas Vale's life. The woman who kissed him in front of the world. She hated the attention. Nicholas's office door was already open when she reached the top floor. He stood by the window overlooking Manhattan, the skyline painted in early dawn light. A gold wedding band caught the sunrise. He turned when he heard her footsteps. "You didn't go home?" It wasn't a question. "Sir," they stood in silence, the weight of last night hanging between them like smoke. "The police found nothing," Nicholas said finally. "Professional job. No trace. No leads." Evelyn moved closer, her voice low. "This wasn't random. Someone wanted you dead at that exact moment, in front of everyone." "That's a message, I know." His jaw tightened. "I received a letter 4 days ago, anonymous. It said they would finish what they started 5 years ago." Evelyn's blood went cold. 5 years ago. When your wife died, Nicholas's fingers traced the edge of his wedding band, a habit worn smooth by grief. They called it a car accident, brake failure. But Sarah was paranoid the last month of her life. She said someone was watching us, following her. His voice cracked slightly. I didn't believe her, and now they're back. Now they're back. Evelyn stepped beside him at the window, close enough to feel the tension radiating from his body. Who knew about the threats before the gala? 3 people. My assistant, Marcus Reed, my coup, and you. The implication hung heavy in the air. You think it's someone inside? Nicholas turned to face her fully, his gray eyes searching hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. I think someone close to me has been waiting 5 years to finish the job, and I think you just became a target too. Before she could respond, the door burst open. Marcus Reed strode in, his suit immaculate, his smile sharp as broken glass. There you are. The press is going insane. That kiss is trending worldwide. Quite the performance, Ms. Hart. Evelyn's expression didn't change. It wasn't a performance. Marcus laughed, moving to the bar and pouring himself a drink despite the early hour. Come now. A heroic bodyguard. A dramatic rescue. A billionaire swept off his feet. It's almost too perfect. He raised his glass toward Nicholas. Your stock prices jumped 12% overnight. Maybe we should stage more assassination attempts. Get out. Nicholas's voice was ice. Marcus's smile faded. He set down his glass with deliberate slowness. Careful, Nicholas. You forget who kept this company running while you mourned for 5 years. His eyes flicked to Evelyn. And who was here before the soldier showed up? He'd left, the door clicking shut with quiet menace. Evelyn waited until his footsteps faded. How long have you known him? 20 years. He was my roommate in college. My best friend. The best man at my wedding. And now. Nicholas's face was stone now. I don't know who to trust. Evelyn moved closer. Close enough to see the exhaustion carved into his features. The grief he wore like armor. Then trust me. Why should I? I hired you 3 days ago. For all I know, you're part of this. The words should have stung, but Evelyn understood. Trust was a luxury neither of them could afford. Because, she said quietly, if I wanted you dead, I would have let that bullet find you. Something shifted in his eyes. Not quite trust, but a crack in the wall. His phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and his face went pale. What is it? He turned the phone toward her. A photo. Evelyn in the subway that morning. The timestamp read 5:47 a.m. Beneath it, a message, she can't save you twice. Evelyn's hand moved instinctively to her concealed weapon. They've been watching me since I arrived. Nicholas's voice was raw. This is bigger than a failed assassination. Someone's been planning this for years, and now you're in it. She met his gaze, steady and unflinching. Good, because I'm not leaving until we finish it. For the first time since his wife died, Nicholas Vale felt something stir beneath, ice around his heart, fear, gratitude, and something far more dangerous. The rain hammered against the windows of Nicholas's penthouse apartment. Evelyn stood guard by the door, her weapon holstered but within reach. They had moved locations twice in the past 24 hours. Whoever was hunting Nicholas had resources, patience, and a vendetta that burned cold. Nicholas paced the living room, his shirt untucked, his hair disheveled from running his hands through it. The polished billionaire was cracking at the edges. There has to be something we missed. A pattern. A connection. Evelyn had spent the last 6 hours reviewing security footage, financial records, and every threat Vale Industries had received in the past decade. Her eyes burned from the screen light. Your wife's accident. Walk me through it again? Nicholas stopped pacing. His fingers found his wedding band again, twisting it slowly. We were coming home from a charity gala. Sarah was driving. She always drove when she'd been drinking, even just one glass. Said it kept her sharp. His voice went distant. The brakes failed on a mountain road. The car went over the cliff. She died instantly. In the investigation? Ruled accidental. Mechanical failure. The car was old. I never pushed back because I couldn't face the alternative. While Villain stood, moving closer, that someone murdered her. Yes, the word fell between them like shattered glass. Who inherited if she died? Nicholas's eyes snapped to hers, sharp and sudden. I did. Full control of the company. Sarah owned 40%. It reverted to me. And if you die? He was silent for a long moment. Marcus. He's the only other major shareholder. 20%. The board would vote him CEO within a week. Evelyn's mind raced through the implications, connecting threads that had been invisible until now. He was with you at the college. He helped build the company. He was there when Sarah died. And he knew about the threats before the gala. Marcus wouldn't. He's my brother in everything but blood. And why did he smile when he mentioned staging more attempts? Nicholas had no answer. The sound of the apartment door unlocking made them both freeze. Evelyn's hand moved to her weapon in a single fluid motion. Marcus stepped inside, rain dripping from his coat, a bottle of expensive whiskey in his hand. Relax, soldier. I'm not here to kill anyone tonight. Nicholas moved between them, his voice tight. How did you get my security code? Marcus smiled, setting the bottle on the counter with a heavy thud. You gave it to me 3 years ago, remember? After you locked yourself out drunk on the anniversary of Sarah's death? He poured 3 glasses. I'm here because I know what you're thinking. And you're wrong, am I? Marcus's smile faded. His eyes, for the first time since Evelyn met him, looked genuinely hurt. 20 years, Nicholas. I've stood by you through everything. Your company. Your marriage. Your grief. And now you think I'm trying to kill you because some paranoid bodyguard whispered conspiracy theories in your ear. Evelyn's voice cut through the tension. Then explain the message. The one that said I couldn't save him twice? Marcus turned to her, his expression unreadable. I can't, because I didn't send it. He picked up his glass and drained it in one swallow. But I know who did. Nicholas stepped forward, his voice dangerously quiet. Ooh! Marcus reached into his coat. Evelyn's weapon was out and aimed at his chest in a heartbeat. Easy. Marcus slowly pulled out a manila folder and tossed it onto the counter. Her name is Victoria Chen. She worked for Vale Industries 5 years ago. Head of R&D, Sarah discovered she was selling company secrets to competitors. Sarah was going to expose her the week she died. Nicholas opened the folder with shaking hands. Inside were photos, emails, financial transactions, a web of betrayal spanning years. Why didn't you tell me this before? Marcus's voice went cold. Because I've spent 5 years gathering proof. Because Victoria disappeared the day after Sarah's funeral. And because I knew if I told you without evidence, you'd tear yourself apart looking for ghosts. Evelyn lowered her weapon, but didn't holster it. Where is she now? Marcus's smile returned, sharp and dangerous. That's the interesting part. She resurfaced 3 weeks ago. Hired by a shell company. And that shell company just bought the building across from the convention hall. He looked at Nicholas. She had a clear line of sight to the stage. Room went silent except for the rain. Nicholas's hands trembled as he held the folder. You've known for 3 weeks and said nothing. It was waiting for the right moment to strike, to get enough evidence to destroy her completely. Marcus's voice softened. I was trying to protect you, brother, but Evelyn saw something in Marcus's eyes. A flicker of something that didn't match his words. She had seen that look before in interrogation rooms and war zones. The look of a man telling a truth wrapped in lies. If you'd been tracking her for 3 weeks, you knew she'd make a move at the gala. Marcus met her gaze steadily. I suspected. I increased security. I hired you, but you didn't warn Nicholas, because I wasn't certain. And I didn't want to panic him for nothing. Nicholas looked between them, his world fracturing. So what now? Marcus picked up the whiskey bottle. Now we set a trap. Victoria wants you dead for revenge. So we give her another chance. And this time, we're ready. Evelyn's instincts screamed warning. But Nicholas was already nodding, desperate for action, for answers, for an end to the nightmare as Marcus left. Evelyn caught his arm at the door. If you're lying, I'll know. Marcus leaned close, his voice a whisper only she could hear. And if you get him killed, soldier, you'll wish the bullet hit you instead. The door closed. Evelyn turned back to Nicholas, her gut twisting with dread, because she realized with cold certainty that someone in this story was lying, and she was falling. For the man she might not be able to save? The warehouse smelled of rust and old rain. Nicholas stood in the center of the empty space, a lone figure under the single overhead light Marcus had insisted would draw Victoria out. The plan was simple. Nicholas as bait. Evelyn and Marcus positioned in the shadows with tactical teams ready to move. But simple plans. Evelyn knew where people died. She crouched behind a steel container 50 feet from Nicholas, her rifle scope trained on the entrance. Her earpiece crackled with static. Positions confirmed, Marcus's voice came through. Thermal imaging shows one heat signature approaching from the east entrance. Evelyn's finger rested beside the trigger. Something felt wrong. The air was too still. The setup too clean. A woman stepped into the light. Victoria Chen, smaller than Evelyn expected, with sharp features and eyes that burned with years of rage. She held a pistol loosely at her side. Nicholas Vale, the man who destroyed my life. Nicholas didn't flinch. You destroyed your own life when you betrayed my company. My wife. Victoria laughed, bitter and broken. Your wife was a self-righteous fool who couldn't see the bigger picture. Vale Industries was built on stolen technology. Sarah found out. She was going to expose everything, burn it all down, take you with her, so you killed her. I saved your empire, and you never even knew. Victoria raised her weapon, aiming at his chest. But then Marcus told me you were asking questions. Digging into the past? You couldn't leave it alone. Evelyn's blood turned to ice, Marcus told her. Her earpiece crackled again. Marcus's voice calm and measured. Take the shot, Evelyn. Now. But Evelyn's scope wasn't on Victoria anymore. She swung it to where Marcus was supposed to be positioned, in the upper rafters to her left. He wasn't there. Evelyn. Nicholas's voice barely a whisper through the cum. Something's wrong. She moved before thought could form, leaving her position. Sprinting toward Nicholas's Victoria's finger. Tightened on the trigger. But the shot didn't come from Victoria. It came from behind. The bullet tore through Evelyn's shoulder as she reached Nicholas, her body twisting to shield him again. They hit the ground hard, her blood hot against his chest. Victoria's eyes went wide with shock as 3 more shots rang out. She dropped, her weapon clattering away. Her body still, Marcus emerged from the shadows, his own weapon smoking, his expression carved from stone. I'm sorry it had to be this way. Nicholas held Evelyn against him, his hands pressing against her wound, her blood soaking through his fingers. What did you do? His voice broke. Marcus, what did you do? Marcus moved closer, his weapon still raised, his eyes no longer those of a friend, but of a stranger wearing a familiar face. I did what I should have done 5 years ago. Sarah was going to destroy everything we built, everything we sacrificed for. So I arranged her accident, made it look clean, and when Victoria figured it out, I used her. Let her take the blame. Let her believe she was the mastermind. He smiled without warmth. I even hired the sniper at the gala. Missed on purpose. Created the perfect enemy for you to hunt. While I consolidated power, you killed Sarah. Nicholas's voice was hollow, empty. My wife. My best friend's wife. I saved the company. I saved you from her naive crusade. And I would have kept saving you if this soldier hadn't shown up and made you start caring again. Evelyn's hand found her sidearm, her movements slow, agonizing. Blood loss made the world tilt. Nicholas, she whispered when I move. Run. I'm not leaving you. You have to. Marcus's weapon swung toward them. Touching really. But this ends tonight. Both of you. The grieving widower finally snaps. Kills the woman he's fallen for. Then himself. Tragic. Perfect. Evelyn's training took over, even as her vision blurred. She had one shot. One moment. One chance to save the man who had somehow impossibly made her feel something other than emptiness. She thought of her brother, lost in Afghanistan. Of all the people she couldn't save. Of the weight she carried every day. Not this time. She surged upward with the last of her strength. her weapon rising. Marcus fired. But Nicholas was faster, throwing himself between them. His body taking the bullet meant for her. He crumpled. Evelyn's shot found its mark. Marcus staggered back, his weapon falling, his hand clutching his chest. He looked almost surprised as he collapsed. 20 years, he whispered, blood on his lips, and you still chose the stranger. Then he was still. Evelyn crawled to Nicholas, her shoulders screaming, her hand shaking as she pressed against the wound in his side. Blood pooled beneath them, mixing together. "Stay with me," she said, her voice breaking for the first time. "Nicholas, stay with me." His hand found hers, weak but warm. "You've saved me again. And you've saved me." Tears she hadn't shed in years burned her eyes. "Why did you do that?" His smile was faint, fading. "'Cause for the first time since Sarah died, I wanted to live. And I couldn't do that watching you die." Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. Evelyn held him, her forehead pressed against his, their blood mingling, their breaths synchronizing. "Don't you dare leave me now," she whispered. "Not after making me feel again." His eyes held hers, gray and deep and fighting. "Then give me a reason to stay." She kissed him then, not to shield him from death, but to tether him to life, to promise something neither had believed possible, a future beyond the grief. The warehouse doors burst open. Tactical teams flooded in, medics rushing forward, voices shouting, but Evelyn only held Nicholas tighter, refusing to let go, refusing to lose another person she loved, because somewhere between the first kiss and this moment, she had fallen for the broken billionaire, and she would fight heaven, and hell to keep him breathing. 6 months later, the hospital had long since faded to memory, placed by the quiet rhythm of healing. Evelyn stood on the balcony of Nicholas's penthouse, watching the city stretch beneath a canvas of twilight. Her shoulders still ached when it rained, a reminder etched in scar tissue. Some wounds never fully closed. Behind her, she heard the soft footsteps she had learned to recognize in the dark. Nicholas joined her at the railing, 2 mugs of coffee in his hands. He no longer wore the wedding band. That ghost had finally been laid to rest beside Sarah's grave. With words of love and goodbye whispered into the wind, "You're thinking too loud," he said. Handing her a mug, Evelyn smiled faintly. Old habit, hard to shut off. They stood in comfortable silence, shoulders touching. The investigation had taken months. Marcus's betrayal had unraveled like thread pulled from cloth, revealing a web of corruption that reached deep into Vale Industries. The company had survived, but barely. Nicholas had rebuilt it from the foundation up, with transparency this time, with truth. "I'm leaving tomorrow," Evelyn said quietly. Nicholas went still beside her, leaving. Security contract overseas. 3 months. Maybe 6. I don't know yet. He set down his mug with deliberate care. "You're running, I'm doing my job." Which job? Bodyguard or coward? The words should have stung, but Evelyn heard the pain beneath them. She turned to face him fully, seeing the man who had taken a bullet for her, who had chosen life over grief, who had learned to smile again. "I watched people I loved die, Nicholas. In the desert, in ambush, in my arms." Her voice cracked. "I became a bodyguard because I thought if I could save strangers, maybe I could forgive myself for the ones I couldn't save. But then I saved you. And you saved me. And now I'm terrified because I don't know how to do this." "Do what?" "Stay. Build something that isn't based on crisis or adrenaline or blood." She looked away. "Love someone without waiting for them to die." Nicholas's hand found her face, turning her gently back to him. "I spent 5 years frozen because I thought moving forward meant forgetting Sarah. But you taught me something." His thumb traced the line of her jaw. "Healing doesn't erase the past. It just makes room for the future." Right. What if I'm not brave enough for that future? You jumped in front of a bullet twice. I think you're brave enough for coffee and conversation. Despite everything, Evelyn laughed. It was a broken, beautiful sound. Just coffee and conversation? For now, his smile softened. Later, maybe I'll let you reorganize my security protocols again. I know how that excites you. She kissed him then, slow and deliberate, tasting hope mixed with fear. When they pulled apart, her decision crystallized. 3 months, she said. I finished this contract because I gave my word. But then I come back. Promise. She pressed her forehead against his, their breath mingling in the cool evening air. I promise. And I don't break my promises. I know. He held her close, his heart steady against hers. That's why I'm not worried. They stood together as the city lights flickered on one by one, two people scarred by loss, but no longer defined by it. The future stretched uncertain before them, but for the first time in years, neither was facing it alone. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed. Life continued its chaotic dance. But here in this moment, there was only peace. Nicholas pulled the wedding band from his pocket, the one he had carried for months, unable to let go. He held it up to the fading light one final time. Goodbye, Sarah, he whispered. Thank you for the years we had, for teaching me what love was, and for forgiving me for finding it again. He released the ring, letting it fall from the balcony into the city below. A tiny piece of gold disappearing into the vastness, carrying his past with it. Evelyn took his hand, ready. Nicholas looked at her, this fierce woman who had crashed into his life with a kiss and a bullet, who had shattered his isolation and showed him that hearts could be broken and still beat strong. Ready? They walked inside together, leaving the balcony empty, the ghosts behind them finally at rest. 6 months later, on a rainy Tuesday, Evelyn returned. She found Nicholas waiting in the same spot, 2 mugs of coffee in his hands, a smile on his face that reached his eyes. Welcome home, he said. And for the first time since she was a soldier in the desert, Evelyn believed she had one. They had saved each other. Not just from bullets and betrayal, but from the prisons they had built inside themselves. Some scars never fade, but in the light of the right person, they become maps to show how far you've traveled, how much you've survived, how worthy you are of the love you thought you'd lost the right to claim. Nicholas and Evelyn learned that lesson in blood, in fire and desperate kisses, and they spent the rest of their lives proving it true. The end.